Hello and welcome to a new video. After the elephant trap, we are back for more.
I was going to start with the hello, actually. You stole my thunder.
I stole your greetings.
Yeah, my thunder is greetings. So, hello guys. So we're back, as Fiona has already spoiled for you guys. And today, well, the first video we covered a well-known trap, the elephant trap, in a well-known opening, the Queen's Gambit Decline. And this time around, a similar theme. We're looking at a trap in the Sicilian defense.
This time he's throwing me in the deep end. I have no idea what we're gonna be looking at. He told me the name. I'd never heard it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the Magnus Smith trap. Canadian dude. 3-time champion, so I hear. Way back when. 19th century.
You'll tell me more about him later.
Hopefully. Okay. Shall we show it?
Yeah, so it starts with a Sicilian.
Yes. So after e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, chop, chop. This position is an open Sicilian, of course.
You've already surprised me, because when I heard the Magnus Smith trap, I thought it was going to be like a Mora Smith kind of in the Mora Smith line, but nothing to do with that.
Who knows? Maybe this is the Smith in Smith Mora. I think it's Smith Mora, but I never know. It's a topic for another video. You caught me out. Let us
know in the comments if you know anything about Mr. Smith/Smith Mora.
I guess they're two guys, like Caro and Caro Can. Anyway. So knight f6, knight c3. And here in this position, so this is a major position in the Sicilian. So many different options. Here, for example, you can play a6, and that takes us into
the
Najdorf. You can go g6. The dragon, exactly. Now, you can also play this move, knight c6. This is the move that we're looking at today, and this is the classical variation. Actually, Magnus Carlsen has been really repopularizing this lately. And here, one of the absolute most common moves at both club and professional level is the move bishop to c4. Okay, so in this position, we see so many master level games. We can actually see that here in our database, we'll see thousands and thousands of games with this position. It's the so-called Sozin variation, or the Fischer-Sozin attack, because Fischer really liked to play his bishop to c4. And most of the time, black continues with this move, pawn to e6, and tries to say, well, your bishop is going to be kind of biting on granite, right? That's the idea. But what caught my eye when I was sort of looking at which trap to show next is that if you look in this position, you can see that e6 is the top move, queen b6 is the next move, and after that come other moves like bishop d7, e5, knight a5, and only having been played not many times at all is this move g6 at the master level. That's been played 45 times in our database. Whereas e6 and queen b6 combined have been played like 6,000-7,000 times.
Overwhelming majority.
An overwhelming majority of the time. But on the other hand, if we take a look at the amateurs database, what you notice is...
Yeah, e6 is still the number one move, but then by far the most played, by far in second position is the move g6.
Exactly. So if you are an e4 player and somebody plays the Sicilian, you should know what to do against this move g6. And if you're a Sicilian player yourself, in general you shouldn't play g6. So Fiona, let's test you. What would you do against g6? Do you know this trap?
I do not know this trap.
Ooh,
I'm already looking at some bishop f7 sacrifices, but I guess it's not.
Good eye. Maybe you can set those up in some way. You've got 3 seconds, 2, 1, and time is out for Fiona. That was a tough counter, but I don't make the rules. So after g6, in fact, the best idea here is to take on c6. Then after pawn takes c6, you play this move, pawn to e5.
Okay.
Now, what happens, Fiona, if you take that pawn?
Oh, bad things.
Very bad
things.
This I
spotted. If you take the pawn, I will take on f7.
Exactly.
And I would say thank you very much.
And that was your
Madam
tactical
Queen.
eye. You saw it. You saw this bishop takes f7 plan.
Yeah.
But after, yes, exactly, after king takes f7, the queen falls. One thing that's useful to know whenever you're seeing these ideas, these tactics of bang, decoy the king, decoy the king, and then the queen falls, is you have to just check. I'm in the habit of checking.
Check, discovery check with
exactly.
the bishop.
Check for checks, right? Because if your king is on c1, castled queenside,
then it doesn't.
there might be a check. No, there might be a check here with a discovered attack on the queen. And if, let's say, he didn't have this pawn and you didn't have this knight, this check would actually turn things around. A little bit like in our last video, the elephant trap, where it looks as though black is losing his queen, but actually it's the other way around. And so this is a super important trap. Again, take a look at the database. Most of the time here, black does realize and plays one of these two moves.
But there's almost 500 games in the Lichess database with the move d takes c5.
Exactly, and white has scored 91% wins from that position.
Let's see how many people didn't find bishop f7.
57 people.
Losers.
57 people. One guy even played queen e2. Shout out to a 2460 rated Kednani.
And he deservedly lost again.
And he deservedly lost against Fat Kid Bora. Good name. So this is the big trap. This is known as the Magnus Smith trap. Actually, to share some insights on Mr. Smith.
You did your research.
I always do my research.
Nothing to do with Magnus Carlsen.
Absolutely nothing. So it's this fellow over here. A legend.
A classy looking man.
They don't wear bow ties
don't do them like that anymore.
No, they don't.
These days.
So, interestingly, the Magnus Smith trap might be a bit of a misnomer because it actually, I think he didn't ever play this, but rather he had a game where he played this. And he talked about this bishop f4 line, and I found this very, very funny. What I found here is this was published in some American chess bulletin in 1911, and he wrote an article. Magnus Smith wrote an article called "An Innovation Against the Sicilian Defense," and I really loved reading a little bit about this. Because just the way he starts is great. He says, those chess players who have adopted the close openings in order to avoid the many pitfalls and traps in the early game will be somewhat shocked to read that such a time-honored opening as the Sicilian defense has been put under a cloud by a game played in the recent National Masters tournament. And I'm thinking, as I read that, I'm thinking, geez, it's a little arrogant, you know? But then he says, the writer recognizes that the character of an established chess opening is not to be lightly defamed, and that a single game is not conclusive in proving the soundness or unsoundness of a line of play. Nevertheless, it will scarcely be denied that the Sicilian has received a serious jolt, and that some new line of play is necessary to restore confidence in this refuge of the close players. Yeah, so this was...
How times have changed.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays the idea that anybody would write an article saying, oh, the Sicilian is maybe...
And by the way, we are taking this from an article by Edward Winter, probably the #1 chess historian, and we'll link it in the description below.
Yes, for anybody who's interested in chess history, he's a good man to know of. So in fact... Magnus Smith was right, though, in the sense that nowadays this move g6, which for a time was considered perfectly good, nowadays you can see almost nobody is playing it. And when they do play it, they certainly do not take here.
So what if we get to this position and black does not blunder and recapture?
Excellent. So, great question. Now, there's two major options, knight g4 or knight d7. And the main thing that I just want to tell the viewers is if knight g4, most people here at the club level, they continue with the move e6 here. It's super tempting. I've done it myself actually online. And the point is, if you take, then this guy falls. And that's sort of the idea, you know, we're gonna create a threat here and another threat here. But the problem is, after this move f5, it turns out that black deals with both threats And in the future, maybe he'll play d5.
Become weak.
Exactly, and this pawn might become weak. I checked this with an engine.
And the engine confirms black is actually fine. If anything, the engine prefers black ever so slightly.
Exactly. It's still a game. It's about equal, but not the way to go.
Careful with these moves, yeah.
So what I recommend is really simple thing to remember. Whether it's here or whether it's here, the simplest line to an advantage is just to take this pawn. And the point is, if black goes here, you take the pawn, and then after pawn takes, you actually just go ahead and castle. You play really normal.
And black is struggling to develop because now he cannot play the normal move bishop g7 because d6 is hanging.
Bishop g7, this pawn would fall, as well as some rook e1 check ideas. And if you go bishop e7...
Bishop h6, I guess.
Bishop h6, and when are you going to castle? That was a rhetorical question, by the way. So, glad you didn't answer it. So, yeah, so this is really bad. The best move is actually knight to g4. And then after e takes d6, black can take back the pawn in one of two ways. But again, if queen takes d6, I mean, you know, you can play things like pawn to h3 if you want. Doesn't matter, but just very simple. This structure, you're still going to be better because, look, isolated pawn, kind of hanging pawns here. And the knight on g4 a bit silly, and white has a clean structure.
Yeah.
White is
2 pawn islands against 3, the better development.
Exactly. So white is just a little bit better. If he wants to be even more ambitious, he might play something like h3 and try to get the queens to come off the board and play against this isolated pawn. That's a matter of taste, but both lines give you a nice edge. And if pawn takes d6, again, we just castle, and we're even happier here because the queens stay on the board with
I am especially happy. It gives me extra attacking possibilities. Especially, as you say, against this king.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this position, it's nice to keep the queens on the board. So that's really, really very simple. To sum up, if black against this move, bishop c4, which is the Fischer-Sozin, so even if you, let's say, even if black plays a move like e6 or queen b6, okay, you have to study theory. That's a topic for another day. But you're playing a main line. And if black at the club level hits you with this move...
Remember, it's the second most played move.
Thousands upon thousands. Because it's a very natural move, right? Black wants to develop his bishop. And there's two ways, either like this or like this. So those who don't know theory will often like this move. And now some easy points. If you take here, take here. If e5, when they take the pawn, it's lights out.
You're happy.
Exactly. And of course, if you fail to win a game after this, you take that to your grave. And if black goes here or here, you can just take the pawn on d6 and know that your better structure and better development will give you a better game.
So that was very useful, actually. So if you're on the white side of the Sicilian, it's a trap that I never heard of. I'm not an open Sicilian player, but I think it's also a motive that you can remember for the lines, and as black would be very careful with those g6 moves.
Yes, exactly. g6 is very dodgy in this situation, and some would even go so far as to argue that it's a pretty serious jolt for the Sicilian defense, you know? Maybe even a refutation.
Maybe. So that's that. Let us know in the comments below how you like the video, and especially if you have suggestions for other traps or tricks you'd like us to look at.
Yeah,
let us know.
That'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
And we'll see you again very soon.
Yes, so see you again.